and welcome back to the Pixel Tea. How's my mic? Is my voice coming in clear? Is it too loud? For those of you who are here, just go ahead and let me know if it's too loud or if it's just right. But welcome back. Hi, Miss Bex. Thanks for stopping by and supporting me tonight. It's always good to have you here. So tonight's title is Solar Cycles and Sacred Resets. And I gave you a brief explanation in the video description tonight on what we're going to talk about and what I'm going to play for you. So let's look at over here at my channel and the community page for just a moment. Okay. Make that nice and full so you all can see it. Because last time when I played the stream, let's see here, how do Let me know if you can still hear me. I'm going to try something. I haven't done this before. No, that's not it. Ah, that's it. Okay. Oh, one of my channels that I enjoy watching, Dubsonian Power, removed his stream, but that's what I wanted to advertise was some of the channels that have been giving us more information on the up-to-date events of what's happening with the sun and these geomagnetic storms and these X-flares and such. So go ahead and check my community page out. I like to stay up to date with what's going on with the weather and such. Okay. And the first thing I'd like to do is read this article for you. And it is titled, Sun's Solar Cycle is Governed by the Alignment of the Planets. By the planets scientists discover. How's everyone doing? It says here, the sun's 11-year solar cycle is governed by the alignment of the planets. My camera's being a little funny. Well, at least you saw my face. But I'm going to go ahead and turn this off because it's kind of giving me some problems here. The sun's 11-year cycle is governed by the alignment of the planets, with Venus, Earth, and Jupiter's tidal tidal forces influencing the solar magnetic field, scientists have found. The discovery helps explain why the sun operates on such a regular cycle, something researchers had previously struggled to account for. The sun goes through solar cycles every 11 years, with activity peaking and waning over this period. At the height of this activity, the solar maximum, more sunspots tend to appear on the sun's surface. It is also associated with more eruptions, with an increase in solar flares and coronal mass ejections, even events that have an impact on Earth. At the moment, we are in solar maximum. In a study published in journal Solar Physics, researchers from the independent German research institute Helmholtz-Zentrum Dresden Russendorf says they have found evidence showing the role the planets play in the solar cycle. The tidal forces of Venus, Earth, and Jupiter produce a gravitational pull that can cause changes to the plasma on the surface of the sun. These forces are at their strongest when there is maximum alignment of the three planets, and an event that takes place once every 11.7 years. The researchers compared observations of solar activity over the last 1,000 years with the planetary alignment and found the two are indeed linked. There is an astonishingly high level of coordinates, Frank Stefani, lead author of the study, said in a statement. What we see is complete parallelism with the planets over the course of the 90 cycles. Everything points to clocked process. While the forces are too weak to change the goings-on in the sun's interior directly, the researchers believe there could be an indirect mechanism resulting in the solar cycle planet alignment they observe. They argue that a physical effect that can change the behavior of liquid plasma, known as the Taylor instability, could be responsible. The Taylor instability can react to small changes to tidal forces, with a small shift creating perturbations on the sun. Using computer model and simulations, the researchers found the momentum from the alignment from three planets was enough to cause the changes observed. This means the planets, although an indirect mechanism, appeared to be setting the sun's solar cycles. They now plan to see if other weak forces could be playing a role in solar dynamo. By having a better understanding of what drives activity on the sun, researchers would be able to improve space weather predictions and potentially even climate-related changes on Earth. An extended period of weak solar activity in the 17th century is believed to have contributed to a mini ice age in Europe. Scientists believe the forthcoming solar cycle, which we're in right now, cycle 25, will be below average, with the next solar maximum between 2023 and 2026 predicted to have been 95 to 130 sunspots, compared to a typical range between 140. While low, this is still higher than the solar cycle 21 to 24. So this article is an older article, and we're already blowing these numbers out of the park. In a statement from the NOAA, Lisa Upton, a solar physicist with Space Systems Research Corp, said, "We expect solar cycle 25 will be very similar to cycle 24, another fairly weak cycle preceded by a long, deep minimum. The expectation that cycle 25 will be comparable in size to cycle 24 means that the steady decline in a solar cycle amplitude seen from cycles 21 through 24 has come to an end, and that there is no indication that we are currently approaching a Maunder-type minimum in solar activity." Well, that's kind of interesting, because this solar cycle has been really intense. So this article was from 2019. And this, I wanted to read this because the next thing that I wanted to talk about is eschatology. And that seems to be what I am focusing on these days. And yes, I'm using Wikipedia. And that's okay, because that's going to help me direct myself a little bit here. So, eschatology, from ancient Greek, eskatos, last, and concerns expectations of the end of present age, human history, or the world itself. The end of the world, or end times, is predicted by several world religions, both Abrahamic and non-Abrahamic, which teach that negative world events will reach a climax. Belief that the end of the world is imminent is known as apocalypticism, and over time has been held by both by members of mainstream religions and by doomsday cults. In the context of mysticism, the term refers metaphorically to the end of ordinary reality and reunion with the divine. Religions treat eschatology as a future event prophesied in sacred texts and folklore, while other religions may have concepts of renewal or transformation after significant events. The explicit description of a new earth is primarily found in Christian teachings. This description can be found in chapter 21 of the book of Revelation. I just want to check here that okay, yes, I'm still here. So that, once I started to look into the terminology of eschatology, then that sent me down, like I said, I like to look at patterns and things. So let's look at biblical. E-N-H-A-T-O-L-O-G-Y. No, let's see here. That's not what I wanted. Hold on for a moment, folks. Thank you for your patience. The eschatology in the Gospel centers on the breaking in the kingdom of God. Opposition to God's kingdom builds in the passion narratives, and Jesus foretells the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and the end of an age in his Olivet Discourse, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So that's what it speaks about in Christianity. Let's go back over here to StreamYard for just a moment. Hi, Raycard. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. Let's go back to eschatology in Oops. So, eschatology is a significant part of Chinese culture and religion and is expressed in a variety of ways, including Buddhist, the Three Suns doctrine, Chinese apocalypse, Taoist eschatology, Chinese Christian eschatology. Uh, a complex set of apocalyptic beliefs that developed in China by combining Buddhist cosmology and Taoist eschatology. These beliefs are found in apocryphal texts, which are an important source of information about how Buddhism was practiced in China. The Three Suns doctrine, a doctrine found in some Chinese salvationist religions, and Confucianism that divides the end of times in three stages, each governed by a different Buddha. The Chinese apocalypse, a concept that differs from the Western apocalypse, which focuses on the end of civilization, while the Chinese apocalypse focuses on a shift in power and the birth of a new form of governance. The Taoist eschatology is a concept that involves the frequent revelation of scriptures that sound eschatological themes. These revelations are justified by the idea that humanity is in a state of decline and needs a new vehicle of salvation. The early house churches that emerged in China in the late 1970s had their own view of eschatology, which was a type of dispensational premillennialism. Let's see here. Hindu eschatology is a mythical or relative eschatology that includes the belief in cycles of creation and destruction, and the idea that these cycles can be influenced by religious rituals. Some key aspects of Hindu eschatology include the cycles of the kalpas. The universe goes through cycles or kalpas of creation and destruction that last 4.32 billion years each. Each kalpa is made up of 2,000 Mahayugas, which are further divided into 4 ages or yugas of decreasing length. The current age is the Kali Yuga, which is the 4th yuga or Mahayuga. The end of the Kali Yuga is an age of disorder and decadence, and it will end in great conflagration. The end of the world, or pralaya, will be brought about by the arrival of Kalki, the final avatar of Vishnu. Kalki will come to earth on a white horse and destroy evil forces. Hindus believe in an afterlife that includes heaven, Svarga, which ancestors reside, and Naraka Ayoka, a dark realm where evildoers are punished. Karma is a central part of Hindu eschatology and determines how soul progresses through the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Let's see here. Islamic eschatology is the study of future events that will occur during the end of times, as described in the Quran and Sunnah. Some of these topics covered in Islamic eschatology include, and please forgive me for my pronunciation of some of these words. Signs of the end. These include disruptions to the natural world and human morality, as well as the appearance of the Mahdi and Jesus. On the last day, on this day, the dead will be resurrected and judged based on their actions. The Quran uses moral and physical arguments to prove that the resurrection will happen. The Antichrist, or Dajjal, is prophesied to appear before the day of judgment. The life of successful believers in paradise is covered in Islamic eschatology, including the creation size and levels of paradise. The Mahdi and Jesus are prophesied to vanquish the Antichrist and restore Sharia. Armageddon. Islamic apocalyptic literature often refers to Armageddon as an al-Malhama al-Kubra, the great epic, or Gaiba occultation in Shia Islam. Let's see here. In Native American cultures, eschatology refers to beliefs about the end of the world or a significant transformation, often including stories of previous worlds destroyed due to human misconduct and prophecies about a future renewal or paradise, with many tribes believing in a spirit world where the deceased go after life. Sometimes with the potential for reincarnation. These beliefs vary greatly across different tribes and are often intertwined with creation stories and concept of living in harmony with nature. Many tribes like the Hopi and the Navajo have creation myths that describe multiple worlds where previous worlds were destroyed due to human actions like greed or violence, and the current world is a result of lessons learned from those mistakes. Most Native American cultures believe in a spirit world where souls go after death, often seen as a place of peace and harmony. Some Native American traditions have seen prophetic figures who foretell significant events, including potential world-ending scenarios, often tied to the need for social change. The concept of living in balance with the natural world is often central to Native American eschatology, with disruptions to this balance seen as potential causes for catastrophic event. Some South American tribes, like the Guarani, believe in the land without evil that can be reached after death, representing a paradise-like state. A late 19th century religious movement led by Wovoka, a poet-prophet, which prophesied a coming renewal of the world if people practiced the ghost dance rituals. So what I'm trying to show here is that there's coincidences in, are they not coincidences, but there's patterns, right? There's patterns. And we're all fighting one another culturally for us to believe in one another's gods. My God is better than your God, right? And it seems to me like everybody seems to be teaching the same things. And these are just a few examples of some cultures and what everyone seems to be paying attention to what? The cycles of the sun and the cycles of the zodiac, which is going to lead me to the first video that I'm going to play for you tonight, which is one of my favorite people to listen to because he focuses on symbolism, and he does a much better, he's a lot more articulate than I am, and his wisdom and knowledge is extraordinary to me. And it's people like that that I really appreciate, to pass on this wisdom and knowledge to the rest of us. Good to see you, Alki. Thanks for stopping by. I always appreciate your support. I really do. So let's go ahead and play our next one. To go back here just to getting a little ahead of myself here.
All the different religions are basically telling us certain things about the ordinances of heaven. I think it will help the world and where we're going if we all start looking at symbols and emblems and educating ourselves to what these things mean. Job 38:33, where it says, God is saying to Job, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? The Pleiades is one of the constellations in the heavens. And so here God is saying, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you lead forth the constellations in their seasons? And then it says in 33, do you know the ordinances of heaven? The ordinances simply means a decree or a law, a directive. It's the law to understand. So God is asking Job, do you understand the laws that govern the heavens? I'm asking the same question today. First of all, in order to know the ordinances of heaven, you must know the most important part or feature of the laws of heaven. The word in the Bible is Maseroth, the ordinances of heaven. If you go to Job 38:32, you will see the word Maseroth. And in the footnotes, it says the signs of the Zodiac. Now, a lot of people think that the Zodiac should not be connected to Christianity or the Bible at all. Actually, in point of fact, the Zodiac is the basis for both Old and New Testament. When you consult Bible references like the Bible dictionaries and encyclopedias, you look up the word Maseroth and it will tell you it's the 12 signs of the Zodiac. We are given to understand in the Bible that God created the Zodiac. And that may sound strange to a lot of people because most people think of the Zodiac as something evil, especially in Christianity. But no, the Zodiac is the basis for much of our learning today, much of our symbolism today, especially in religion and politics. I mean, even the watch you wear is 12 signs of the Zodiac, or the 12 signs that go in a circle. And that's what the word Zodiac means, the 12 signs. We talk about the kingdom of God all the time, but most people don't realize what the kingdom really is. We humans put different life forms into different categories. We say fish are in schools and cattle are in herds. What kind of life forms do we humans say are in a kingdom? If it isn't animals, animal kingdom. The Greeks came up with the idea that the Zodiac was a kingdom of animals that circle the earth. And so when we say in our prayers, even in the Roman system that gave us a lot of our understanding of the Zodiac today, we say in our prayers, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Let thy kingdom come, and let thy will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. We are living our lives in the Zodiac. All cultures in the world recognize that the zodiac is important in their theology and their belief systems. And when you go to Bible bookstores or Bible seminaries, go into the large libraries, and you will begin to see that there are so many books that are written by Christian and Jewish theologians and people who study religion. Wycliffe Bible Commentary talks about to qualify as a director and judge of man's life on earth, one must be able to govern the heavenly bodies that rule the earth. Note the repeated mention of the influence of the atmospheric or astral heavens on earthly affairs. We're talking astrology. Here in the New Interpreter's Bible, it says some connection between what happens in the heavens and what happens on earth is presupposed in the question that Job is being asked by God if he knows the ordinances of heaven. Being asked that question obviously means that God has assigned ordinances in heaven, and we're calling it the Zodiac, Mazzaroth. Let's go back to Genesis 1:14 while we're on this subject. And in Genesis, the first book of the Bible, the first page says, God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. Another Bible translation says, and God said, let there be light holders in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs. The word signs means things to come in Hebrew. The word for signs, the word is oth, O-T-H. This is a Hebrew word which is translated in the Bible as just things to come. Well, that's what the Zodiac purports to do. It tells you about things to come. All Christians are aware that Jesus says to his apostles that in my Father's house are many mansions. Dictators and kings have always felt that there's a mansion in heaven for them. Well, it's a misunderstanding. The incorrect way is to say, in my Father's house are many mansions. But other translations say, in my Father's house are many abodes. Abodes is where you live, where you are is in your abode. In my Father's abode are many dwelling places. Oh, now we're getting to it. Because the heavens is where God is. And if God is in heaven, the scripture says that in my Father's abode are many houses, are many resting places for the sun, houses of the Zodiac. Basically, it boils down to this, that both the Old and New Testament are based on astrology. The 12 signs of the Zodiac is part of the number 12 in Christianity. There were 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 breastplate stones on the high priest, then there's 12 apostles. Look in the Bible and you will see how many times 12 is used. It's all based on the 12 signs of the Zodiac. There was no 12 tribes of Israel. Each one of those signs in the 12 tribes of Israel was an astrological indicator as to what each month represented in the ancient Jewish religion. And the ancient Jewish religion understood this. It's people today who are not studying theology do not understand that the whole of the Old and New Testament is a metaphor. HarperCollins Study Dictionary says the Lord made the constellations of Pleiades and Orion. I don't know how one could read something like this and not see that the Bible is saying God made the constellations of the Zodiac. New International Bible says He, God, is the maker of the Bear and Orion and the Pleiades and the constellations of the south. So if you want to find a fault with astrology, then you'll find a fault with the ideas and concepts that God has put into the heavens as laws. Many philosophers have talked about that foolish people, ignorant and foolish people, are dominated by the Zodiac. They don't know that their personalities and things that happen to them are because of the stars and the moon and the influence of these heavenly signs. but that wise people are guided by these signs. And so it occurred to me that for thousands of years, mankind has navigated around the world on the high seas by a knowledge of the stars. And so the Bible is saying you should navigate your life by the stars. Here we have a typical publication in Christianity talking about astrology as satanic. And that's why I'm spending so much time talking about the biblical reference works, saying that no, it is created by God. It's not satanic. If you really are interested in theological and spiritual subjects, especially in relation to the Bible, you need to get the Companion Bible by Kriegel, because it's an astounding work where it gives one half of the page is the scripture. The other half of each page are the footnotes. And the footnotes will actually blow you away because it tells you the truth about what these symbols really mean and where they came from. In the back of the Kriegel Bible, it talks about the word and where it came from in the Hebrew and what it means. And it basically is saying that it is telling you about things to come, astrology. So here we see the four seasons, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, writing a story about their risen Savior. And what do we see them all four writing about? The sun. This is why Jesus had 12 apostles. Jesus represents God's Son, not S-O-N, S-U-N. Jesus is a metaphor in the New Testament for the sun. And he was our risen Savior, of course. The sun rises each morning. You'll see this famous painting where there are 12 apostles. And to Jesus' right, there's the first apostle to his right is a woman. A lot of people do not know that one of the 12 apostles of Jesus was a woman. Why? Because there is a zodiacal sign called Virgo. Virgo was a virgin. That's why you have to have one woman in there to represent Virgo. The 12 apostles are the 12 signs of the zodiac. Now let's look at some of the zodiac symbols used in religious history. And we'll start with Taurus the bull. The age of Taurus was the age of agriculture, when the cows and animals that we were now beginning to use as food, that was just one of the qualities of the age of Taurus. The age of Taurus is between 4400 and 2200 BC. And keep in mind that Taurus the bull was recognized all over the world by all governments and all religions of the world. Everybody knew what it meant, except us today. So this is why you have words like holy cow, and the cow is still holy in India today. We see the Egyptians worshiping the sun between the horns of the bull. The sun is very important to the 12 signs of the zodiac. Most people do not realize that Taurus, being in the heavens as a constellational sign, was very, very important to Judaism. Here is Taurus, the cow, the bull, and he is in heaven. You see the sun behind him, so the sun is in the age of Taurus, the bull. And of course, we have many stories about the Jews worshiping the golden calf. People don't understand what that story is all about. Moses goes up into the mountain to talk with God because it is time for God to change the ordinances of heaven. And it's important here to remember that each sign of the constellation lasts 2,150 years. Every 2,150 years, the world changes completely. All the great religions of the world realize that. And now Moses comes down with a new beginning of a new way to worship God, a new time when God is going to be worshiped in a different way. And so Moses goes up to find out what that new way of worship that God wants people to do. And so we have the story of the golden calf. Golden, well, because the sun is golden. And calf is a bull. So we have the golden calf or the bull, Taurus, and the sun in the age of Taurus. Today, Israel is trying to bring back the good old days of bull worship. But it's impossible because Taurus is gone. We're in the age of Pisces. And they want to go back to the old days, the way we worship God in the old days with the golden calf. We're in Pisces, and we're at the end of Pisces. That's why the Christians talk about the end times we're living in, the last days we're living in. The last days of what? The last days of Pisces. So now we have to find the perfect bull. The Temple Institute says that you need to find a red heifer that's born in Israel, and it has to be a particular bull. The Israeli government is planning a new temple coming in Israel. And of course, it will be assumed that they're going to go back to all of the old ways of the Taurus to bull. Well, so therefore, they got this Jewish girl picking fleas off of a cow because they want to make sure the bull is going to be completely clean, look his best, smell good, so that they can cut his head off and bring about the dispensation of Taurus to bull again. You got the same bull in Christian churches also. Christians are equally as ignorant and ill-informed about their foundations of their religion. Now you'll see this one shows in the yellow square the bull. The Catholic Church in the Vatican realizes that there was a time, 2,150 years long, when God was ruling the earth through Taurus the bull. And this is where we get our idea of holy cow. Let's look at another zodiac symbol in religious history. This is very important in relation to Jewish history. Aries the ram is the next constellation after Taurus the bull. The Jewish system of theology understood that 2,150 years has passed. Now we move into the next age that Moses brought us into, because Moses brought us into a new dispensation. And when the Jewish people would not accept the idea at the time, we're told in the Bible that Moses became so frustrated, he threw down and broke the law. So he was the first lawbreaker. The astrological time of Aries was from 2000 BC to 1 AD. That's a 2,150 year period of time that the Jews were now to worship their God in the age of Aries, the ram. In Egypt, of course, they have the ram. You'll see the sun in the age of Aries, the ram. The ram god is very famous all over Egypt. And Aries, the ram, is very important not only in Egypt, but in the Old Testament Hebrew. You'll still see it today, Aries, the ram. That's why Jews blow the ram's horn. Instead of parading around with the golden calf and the bull, now today they blow the ram's horn. And so they don't realize that not only the Jews blow the ram's horn, but there are many cultures around the world that blew the ram's horn during the age of Aries, the ram. That's why today we have the shofar, or the ram's horn. You go back to the Vatican and you will see the same painting that was with Taurus the bull. Then you go back and see it's Aries the ram. Since AD 325, we have been living in the sign of the age of Pisces. Pisces, the two fish. Christianity is the focal point of what we call Pisces. Pisces represents religion, a different kind of religion. Before was Judaism. Now there's Christianity dominates the world. And so it has nothing to do with the Christians fighting Jews or the Jews hating Christians. That has to do with the symbolism in which the world is living. And we happen to be living in the age of Pisces, the two fish. So Pisces is the age of a new religion. And if you remember that God's Son, Jesus, S-U-N, fed his followers in the Bible with two fish. This was in John 19, says two fish that the young boy who brought to Jesus 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. As a symbol of the age of Pisces, the time of Christianity to dominate the world. And then here it is again in the Vatican. You will see Pisces, the sign in the Zodiac. Even on Chartres Cathedral, the stained glass windows in the great church even says Pisces. The fish of the early 3rd century appears to be the most ancient Christian inscription. And what do you see in the inscription but 2 fish? Pisces. Even in the Islamic religion today, recognizes the zodiac symbols are from God. The Islamic world has many beautiful paintings of the 12 signs of the zodiac. So they understood that the zodiac is from God, and they have a very good understanding going back to their ancient history of the symbols of the zodiac. Then there is the discovery in the oldest Christian church, and this is really interesting. There was an old Christian church found, and it was referred to as the oldest single Christian church ever found in Israel. And it was a big story at the time it came out that in the area called Megiddo, Israel was going to build a wing onto an existing building. And so they had their people go out and clean out this area where they're going to build a new wing to the building. And they wanted to dig down to put the foundation. And when they dug down, they hit a floor. They hit a mosaic floor. And so they discovered when they started to clean the floor off, what did they find? Well, here they are when they've cleaned off the area. And what do you see on the floor? But the 2 fish. The 2 fish of Pisces. And you'll see the round circle of the sun, and the little spoke going around the circle is, of course, the sunburst. And in the middle of the sun is the 2 fish of Pisces. So Israel saying this is the oldest church ever done and ever built. Well, there's Pisces, the beginning of Christianity. Christianity today is simply the sun in the age of Pisces. There's so many articles talking about the zodiac in relation to Jesus. They don't realize Jesus is the sun, a metaphor, S-U-N. And it's talking about his 12 apostles or his 12 followers, or the 12 signs of the zodiac. Jesus with his 12 apostles, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the 4 seasons. And this is why there are 3 months in each season. Christianity today is replete with saying that we are living in the last days. We're living in the end times. Of course, we're living in the last days of Pisces, which means the next one coming is going to be the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is the water bearer. Very important point here that proves what we're talking about as astrology. We are now facing the next 2,150 years when the sun will officially be in the constellation of Aquarius, the water bearer. And so in the New Testament, in the book of Luke 22, the apostles are asking Jesus, now that you're going to die, where are we going to go? We are your 12 followers, but where are we going to go? And so Jesus answers them in the book of Luke 22:10, where Jesus said unto them, behold, when you enter into the city, there shall a man meet you bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he enters in. It's the house of Aquarius. And Aquarius is the water bearer. But we know that this was talking about an astrological sign. Why? Because men never carried water ever. In the ancient world, that was something that a man would never do, is to carry water. That was a woman's job, period. So why did Jesus say, look for the man with the water pitcher? That's an astrological sign. The whole of the Bible, both Old and New Testament, is a metaphor, as a symbolic story that the theologians have known for hundreds of years. But nobody is telling the public. That's why I think it's important to bring this out, that people need to know there's nothing wrong with the zodiac. The Bible, both Old and New Testament, says God created it. So if you're calling down evil upon the zodiac as a work of the devil, that's not what the scriptures say at all. And like the scripture says in the Bible, when God said to his people, do not call down evil upon something I have cleansed. When I make something, don't you call it evil. Well, this is what I'm saying that we need to keep in mind today. When you talk about astrology and the zodiac, God made that according to the scriptures. So we see the man with the water pitcher is all over the world in Christian churches. But the Christians don't know that. They don't understand what these symbols mean. Now, as we begin the story of the sun and the ancient religions of the world and how much the sun has dominated civilization for as long as we have records, we need to go back to the very beginning. And that's a long time ago. Let's go back to Egypt. We'll start in Egypt because that's one of the oldest civilizations on the earth. And we will see how Egypt developed the concept of the importance of the sun in relation to theology and spirituality and religion. Now, this is an ancient symbol for the sun, prehistoric, that the ancient peoples drew to represent the sun. It's an equal arm cross within the circle. Here is an artifact that was found in England. It's unhinged. It's on a golden circle, which represents the sun. And then you'll see the cross in between. And this is about 4,500 years old. Almost 5,000 years ago, ancient mankind drew pictures of what they perceived the sun to be as an equal arm cross. And you will see it also in the ancient religions of the Near and Middle East, the different ancient gods in the Phoenician, Canaanite, Sumerian systems. They all had the equal arm cross. But it's important to remember that the sun was never perceived as a god. It was perceived to represent the spiritual qualities of God, in that it brought life to the earth, it brought warmth to the earth, it brought energy for us to live. So all of the good things about God and his creation was best represented by the symbol of the sun. Sometimes the sun actually even looks like it has an equal arm cross in the heavens. The reason why it's 4 equal arms on the cross is because there are 4 equal seasons of the year. We have north, east, west, and south, the 4 corners. Then each one of those 4 corners represents a season of the year: spring, summer, autumn, winter. This is why you have 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because they're talking about the life of the sun. The ancient peoples, like us today, we draw a circle, a round circle, and we divide it into four equal parts. And so now you have an equal armed cross inside of a circle. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, spring, summer, autumn, winter. There are a lot of symbolism in the Bible that we have misunderstood and mistaken. The whole idea is the four lodging places of the sun gives us our four seasons of the year. You will find the equal armed cross all over the world. Every race and creed and color has the same symbol for the ancient sun. The Nordics had the symbol, the Vikings kept the symbol, ancient France used the symbol. The symbol was on rocks and carvings and paintings. Even in India, you have the equal armed cross. The Celtic and the Celtic Druids in Europe and England and Ireland had an equal armed cross. Native Americans used it, Central America, and especially in Mayan and Inca and some of the ancient religions in South America have used the equal armed cross. So it became known all around the world that the equal armed cross within a circle represented the old 5,000-year-old petroglyph concept of the sun. Today, people see it everywhere, and so it has become not really important because it's just a general symbol that people realize is a cross. Here is a picture of the ancient Nordic peoples that were preparing for what we would call today the Easter sunrise service. Here, the ancient peoples in Europe realized that the sun was coming back to the northern hemisphere, and it would bring with it the warmth, the food, and life. And so they all gathered with their sun symbol to welcome back the sun that had died in winter and was coming back to the northern hemisphere. It became known as what we call today Easter. The circle on the cross is not a man dying on a cross, it's the sun on the north, east, west, and southern parts of the earth. The idea being, of course, is that when the sun dies in winter, and then when it is reborn on December 25th, the sun actually begins to move northward. And when it does, that tells the world that the sun is now coming back to the northern hemisphere, bringing back the sun to us in the northern hemisphere. Because for us in the northern hemisphere, the sun was dead to us because it was in the southern hemisphere. But now it's being born again and coming back to the northern hemisphere. That's the whole story in itself, is the vision of the sun going southward, dying on the cross, and then being reborn on December 25th when it moves 1 degree northward, and now is coming back and sort of springing back to life. And so in the spring, we call it springing back to life. Well, you will have the symbol everywhere, and even the European Agency for the Euro uses the same equal armed cross to represent the new Euro establishment. You will always find in royalty throughout the world, royalty and governments always use this equal armed cross. The Nazis used it. Even in the parade of the Nazis used the swastika, which is a symbol of the sun also. But you will see also that they are using the equal armed cross. Coptic Christians, even the kings and rulers like the emperors of Europe, always had the equal armed cross on their staff, equal armed cross with the sun god in churches. In September, mid-September, around the world, Christians will gather in schools and universities to worship their God Jesus, who died on a cross. And when they call this ritual, see you at the pole. See you at the pole means that Christians will gather around the flagpole at their colleges and schools to venerate and to worship Jesus, God's Son, the light of the world. Well, of course, the sun is the light of the world. But here are Christians gathering to worship Jesus, never realizing that they are actually meeting around a very ancient symbol of the old petroglyph cross. That this symbol of an equal armed cross within the circle represents an old ancient idea of how to picture the sun. And it's really extraordinary to notice that all churches use that same symbol. And all over the world, people do not realize that this cross that they think represents Christianity is actually over 5,000 years old. It's an ancient, prehistoric symbol of the sun. Jesus has always represented the sun, the S-U-N, not S-O-N. The etymology of the word for the sun. You see that sun can be S-U-N or S-O-N, and depending on how it's used. S-O-N and S-U-N are used interchangeably in Christianity. And illustrations in the Christian church, you will see they're all actually a round, glowing sun. Not a young child or a baby or a man, but the S-U-N. There's two words, S-U-N and S-O-N, but the Christianity and Judaism are based on the worship of the S-U-N, not S-O-N. That's a misunderstanding. That misunderstanding is part of the history of the English language. Because if you go back into the King's Old English, you go back into the history of the English language, there is a phenomena which in English class you will learn is called the lazy O. The lazy O is a phenomena in English which means that translators always translated sun, S-O-N and S-U-N, all in the same sentence. And so it became known as the lazy O. They were talking about the S-U-N, but they used S-O-N because they were lazy. They just used either one. The mother of Jesus is Mary, which is actually Mari, M-A-R-I, not M-A-R-Y. Mari means pure. And therefore, the mother of Jesus is a virgin, or Virgo. One of the 12 signs of the Zodiac is a Virgo, the virgin. So here is Mari, or Mary, the virgin, Virgo, holding the baby Jesus, or God's Son, the light of the world. Today we still have Jesus as God's Son in the heavens, and he became now a great sun god. But the question you need to ask yourself is, who owns the sun? We assume that the sun must be owned by someone. Well, mankind doesn't own the sun. If anything, you would say maybe God owns the sun. So if God owns the sun, then it's God's Son, and he's the light of the world. Of course, the sun is the light of the world. Looking at the communion host, the Catholic communion host, you will see it always looks like the old ancient petroglyph sun. You see that the sun in Jesus' hand represents the S-U-N. The Holy Eucharist represents the sun. This is why the priest in the church on Sundays will raise the sun. They will raise it. And why? Because that's what the sun does. It rises. So the sun rises. This is why we have the symbols on the host in the Catholic Church. It is always the old petroglyph sun. Jesus means God is with us. And you will see the priest is representing Jesus. How? As a sun. All of this goes back many, many thousands and thousands of years before Christianity ever existed. And it has nothing to do with Christianity at all. It has to do with exactly what it's showing, sun worship. And today we're still doing the same thing. We're worshiping the sun. And you will see the sun is prominent in all of Catholicism. Everywhere you look at Catholicism, worshippers of the sun. Now here we have a picture of Jesus giving to the children a part of his body. And what is he giving them? A little round sun disk. We're told that we should all take part of his body at the first communion. In that communion in the Catholic Church, you're taking part of God's Son's body. The whole idea is very obvious what's being talked about here. We're just talking about sun worship. The idea that the Son dies on a cross goes back to the old petroglyph cross. And so that's where we see it now all over the world, all Christianity. You'll see the Son is always dying on the cross, because in the southern constellation, when you go down south, when the sun reaches the lowest part in the sky in southern hemisphere, there is a constellation of stars that look just exactly like a cross. And so we say the sun, when it dies in December, it goes down and dies on the cross. The cross is called the Southern Cross. When he was dead, but now he's coming back to the Northern Hemisphere because he promised he would return. And he is returning again in the spring. Solar symbolism of the sun going southward each day until it finally reaches December 22nd, when it's its lowest point in the southern sky. It's down south now. It's gone south. But on December 22nd, the sun goes as far in the south as it's going to go, and it stops going southward on December 22nd. It doesn't go any further southward. Then on the 23rd and 24th, it rises on the same degree. And therefore, for 3 days, it doesn't move at all, stays in that same degree. So we say, and the ancient people said, that Jesus, or God's Son, died for 3 days. Why? Because it was moving every day, and now it's not moving for 3 days. So for 3 days, the sun was dead. And on December 25th, the sun moves 1 degree northward, which indicates even the United States Navy will show you on their instruments that it indicates the sun is now alive again. He's born again. Now he's going to work his way back to the northern hemisphere, because he said, God's Son said, I will return. Well, he does. He returns every year. So what do you see? Do you see a man on this cross? Do you see a man dying on the cross? No. This is what is actually meant by dying on the cross. It's the sun. During the summer, when the sun is in the northern hemisphere, it is in the constellation of Leo, so he is the lion of the tribe of Judah. And then when he dies in Capricorn, down south when he goes south. And so now he dies in the winter. And then he comes back and springs back to life. And when he comes back to the northern hemisphere, we call it spring. But when it crosses the equator, the sun will have to cross the equator, coming back to us in the north. When it crosses the equator, it is said to have passed over the equator. So in the Hebrew religion, when the sun passes over the coming back to the northern hemisphere, they call that celebration the Passover. But for Christians, they're worshiping the sun also as it passes over, but they refer to it as the resurrection. God's Son has been resurrected. He's come back. It doesn't matter how you say it, a resurrection or a Passover. It just means the sun is coming back to us in the northern hemisphere.
Let's pause on this for just a moment. That was a lot to take in. But again, it's really important to learn your symbology. And that's kind of where it led me eventually to Jordan Maxwell, was me noticing the symbols for the sun in all of the different cultures. And then eventually I found Jordan Maxwell's audio recordings, and then with YouTube started to see the videos, and I just thought that these presentations are important. It's not trying to by me playing these videos, I'm not disrespecting anybody's faith or belief systems. I'm just trying to show that it seems to me that all cultures and human beings have something in common, and that we are worshiping, well, not necessarily worshiping, but we're also paying attention to the sun, the moon, and the stars. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about um Thunderbolts Project is going to show us the electric universe. I've played this on a couple of my streams in the past, but I like to put this into the presentation because I think it's also important to remind ourselves uh, and be more aware of the electric universe, and how all of this is working together.
The space sciences today face a quandary that won't go away. Why have the greatest discoveries come as a shock to astronomers? Since the beginning of the space age, the surprises have occurred at all scales of observation, from remote galaxies down to our own neighborhood in the Milky Way, where planets and moons circle the sun. We've seen the story 100 times and more as new data sent theorists back to the drawing board. Contrast this quandary to the record of the electric universe. This new paradigm is in its early phase of emergence, but its core prediction is crystal clear. When we examine energetic events in space, we will always find electromagnetic intensities far beyond the ability of prior theory to explain them. The impressive record of this prediction arises from a singular fact: that electricity, not just gravity, is highly active across the cosmos. Science advances through the predictive ability of new ideas, ideas that connect observed effects to causes that can be named. Things already known and things yet to be discovered become predictable when seen in the light of a new interpretation. And so the electric universe predicts and explains the spectacular jets emitted from galactic cores, the remarkable hourglass forms of stellar nebulae, and the acceleration of the solar wind out past the planets. Dozens of surprises follow logically and inescapably from the proposed cause. But this is something you have to see for yourself. The great discoveries are no longer surprises, as year by year the space sciences look more and more like the electric universe.
Oh, my internet's starting to slow down a little bit. That's making me very unhappy, and sorry about that. So we're going to switch gears into talking about the idea of black holes.
You do not see into reality. The eyes are black holes, and they suck in the light, and then the back of the brain produces the image that you see. The ancients knew this with the cross going back. Here's the sigil of Lucifer. Lucy means light in Latin, and that's why Lucifer is called the light bearer. It just means light. If the image is produced inside of you, that means the universe is a mental projection. This is why the number one law of the Kabbalion is that all is mind, the universe is mental. You and everything in this creation has an electromagnetic toroidal field. Everything is made out of a torus field. The spectrum is an electromagnetic spectrum. This is an electromagnetic holographic projection from within your mind, and we are existing in God's mind. Human, hue equals light. Man comes from word manifestation. We are light beings manifested into physical form. The 5 element. Ment is the mind. Everything exists in the mind. Government, government, because the mind is the root cause of reality. Let there be light. God thought light into existence. Light is a product of the mind. Low vibrational light turns into matter. High vibrational matter turns into light. This is why the 7 metals have the same symbol for the 7 planets. Because light crystallized gives you the 7 metals. The sun gives you gold. Mars gives you iron. Jupiter tin. They are light in the firmament. Link is in my bio for the Book of Wisdom, paperback or PDF.
Have you ever wondered if black holes, those mysterious cosmic objects that consume everything in their path, might hold the key to understanding the most elusive force in the universe, dark energy? On the one hand, there's dark energy, which makes the universe expand with incredible acceleration. On the other hand, black holes create such a strong gravitational pull that not only planets and space objects, but even light itself cannot escape from its death grip. Even individually, these things sound like something unbelievable from the realm of science fiction. What if these two mysteries of the cosmos are connected? What if black holes, these cosmic eaters, are also cosmic creators, generating the force that is pushing the universe apart? This is an idea that scientists have been exploring in recent years. And quite recently, they've shown that this could be a very real possibility that could fundamentally change our understanding of the universe. To understand the connection between black holes and dark energy, we first need a clear definition of what dark energy is and why it's so mysterious in modern astrophysics. Dark energy is a hypothetical form that permeates all of space and causes the universe to expand with acceleration. It was first proposed in the late 1990s when astronomers studying distant supernovae noticed that they were moving away from us much faster than expected. This discovery led to the realization that the expansion of the universe is not slowing down, as one would expect due to the gravitational pull of all matter in the universe, but is in fact accelerating. This suggests that there's some invisible force pushing the galaxies apart at an ever-increasing rate. Dark energy is one of the most fundamental mysteries of modern astrophysics, and there are several reasons for this. First, we don't know what it's made of or how it works. It is unlike any form of energy or matter that we know of, and it doesn't seem to interact with anything else in the universe except through gravity. Second, dark energy makes up a staggering 68% of the total energy density of the universe. But we can't directly observe or measure it. Instead, we infer its existence based on its effect on the expansion of the universe and the cosmic microwave background radiation. Finally, there are several competing theories explaining the origin and nature of dark energy, none of which have yet to be conclusively proven. Some scientists suggest that dark energy is simply a cosmological constant, a fixed density of energy inherent in the structure of space-time. Others suggest that it may be a form of exotic matter or a scalar field that changes with time. Over the past few decades, scientists have worked hard to unravel the mysteries of dark energy, and the field is still in its infancy. We don't know much, but one thing is clear. Dark energy is one of many intriguing and important phenomena in the universe. Now, to understand how black holes can be related to dark energy, we need to look more closely at their formation, properties, and role in shaping the large-scale structure of the universe. A black hole is a region of space where the gravitational pull is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape its grip. They are formed when massive stars collapse under the action of their own gravity at the end of their lives, leaving behind a small but incredibly dense point in space. Despite their strange nature, black holes play a crucial role in shaping the large-scale structure of the universe. They are thought to be responsible for the formation of galaxies because their enormous gravity can attract and pull together large amounts of matter. When matter collapses into a black hole, it releases enormous amounts of energy, which can create radiations and jets of plasma that repel the surrounding matter, much like a cosmic water tornado. This powerful outflow has the potential to accelerate the expansion of the universe, making black holes an even more important player in the cosmic landscape. The assumption of a potential connection between black holes and dark energy is closely related to the mystery surrounding the expansion of the universe. Although dark energy has been a significant breakthrough in our understanding of the universe, it has also complicated the task of observing the theoretical field of cosmology. To explore the theoretical foundations of dark energy, we must carefully examine the standard model of cosmology and the problems of the cosmological constant, including the expansion of the universe. The standard cosmological model is the prevailing model of the evolution and structure of the universe. It is based on the idea that the universe began with a big bang, which created all the matter and energy in the universe. Over time, the universe expanded and cooled, leading to the formation of galaxies and other large structures. However, the standard model of cosmology also predicts that the expansion of the universe should slow down over time. This is because gravity, according to the theory, should pull matter together and slow down expansion. However, in the late 1990s, astronomers discovered that the expansion of the universe was actually accelerating, which was completely unexpected. This discovery led to the assumption of dark energy, a mysterious force that accelerates the expansion of the universe. The simplest explanation for dark energy is the cosmological constant, a term of Einstein's general theory of relativity that describes the constant density of energy throughout space. However, the cosmological constant poses a serious problem for cosmologists. The observed acceleration of the expansion of the universe far exceeds that predicted by the cosmological constant, and it is not clear why the energy density of the universe must be so finely tuned to produce this effect. To solve this problem, cosmologists have proposed a number of alternative theories of dark energy. One possibility is that the cosmological constant is not actually constant, but may change with time or depending on the condition of the universe. Another possibility is that dark energy is caused by some other form of energy, such as a new field or particle, which has not yet been discovered. While there's no consensus on the exact nature of dark energy, one thing is clear. It poses a serious problem for our current understanding of the universe. To fully understand the meaning of dark energy, we'll need to further explore the theoretical foundations of cosmology and develop new models and theories to explain this mysterious force. So how can black holes be related to this phenomenon? To answer this question, we need to study the mechanisms by which black holes generate energy. Black holes form when massive stars collapse under their own gravity, creating an object with such a strong gravitational pull that nothing, not even light, can escape its grasp. When matter falls into a black hole, it forms an accretion disk, a rotating disk of superheated gas orbiting the black hole. One of the ways black holes can generate dark energy is through their accretion disk. At its core, this idea is based on the fact that black holes are incredibly efficient at converting matter into energy. This accretion disk is a source of enormous energy, as the gas is heated to incredibly high temperatures by the friction generated as it moves around the black hole. Part of this energy is emitted in the form of radiation, including X-rays and gamma rays. But the most interesting aspect of an accretion disk is that it can create negative pressure, which is a force acting against gravity. This force pushes matter away from the black hole. This negative pressure is the key to the connection between black holes and dark energy. It turns out that negative pressure is a characteristic of dark energy, which is considered a type of energy that permeates all space and has negative pressure. The idea is that the negative pressure created by an accretion disk around a black hole may contribute to the overall negative pressure of dark energy in the universe, causing it to accelerate the expansion of the universe. Another mechanism by which black holes can generate dark energy is Hawking radiation. This is a process in which black holes emit particles, including photons and other subatomic particles, due to quantum mechanical effects on the event horizon. These particles take energy away from the black hole, causing it to lose mass and shrink over time. This process may also contribute to the negative pressure of dark energy in the universe, since the energy emitted by black holes is believed to be related to the total energy density in the universe and contribute to the acceleration of its expansion. A recent study published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters provided observational evidence that black holes are related to the power of dark energy. The study was based on observations of the motion of galaxies, in particular their peculiar velocities. In astronomy, peculiar velocity refers to the velocity of an object relative to a certain reference point, such as the average motion of galaxies in a certain region. It differs from the total velocity of an object, which accounts for the expansion of the universe. Unusual velocities can be caused by gravitational attraction or repulsion between objects, and their study can provide information about the distribution of matter in the universe. To measure the peculiar velocities of galaxies, they used a technique called the redshift space distortion method. The team used data from the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, SDSS, including the largest collection of galaxy distances and velocities. The results showed that the peculiar velocities of galaxies correlate with the local density of matter, including dark matter, as well as with the density of black holes. This suggests that the motion of galaxies is affected not only by the gravity of the visible matter, but also by the presence of black holes. If this correlation is confirmed by further research, it could support the idea that black holes contribute to accelerating the expansion of the universe, possibly serving as a source of dark energy. Another piece of evidence comes from the observation of supermassive black holes. These are black holes that are millions or even billions of times more massive than our sun and are thought to be present in the centers of most galaxies. When matter falls into these black holes, it generates enormous amounts of energy, including radiation that can be detected with telescopes. Recent studies have shown that the radiation from these supermassive black holes may contribute to the total energy density of the universe and may even be a source of dark energy. Although this idea is still being investigated, it provides another intriguing link between black holes and the mysterious force that drives the expansion of the universe. Finally, measurements of the cosmic microwave background provide another piece of evidence supporting the idea of black holes as a source of dark energy. This is the afterglow of the Big Bang, and it provides a snapshot of the universe as it was shortly after its formation. Recent studies have shown that fluctuations in the cosmic microwave background may be related to the presence of black holes in the early universe, and that these black holes may have contributed to the total energy density of the universe. Overall, although the connection between black holes and dark energy is still the subject of ongoing research, there's some evidence that this connection may be valid. As astronomers continue to investigate the properties of black holes and the nature of dark energy, we can better understand the role that black holes play in shaping the evolution of the universe. Although the idea of black holes as a source of dark energy is fascinating, it is important to consider alternative explanations and criticisms of the theory. One alternative explanation for dark energy is the possibility of the existence of a new fundamental particle or field, which has been proposed in some theories. This particle or field would have a negative pressure similar to the cosmological constant and could explain the observed acceleration of the expansion of the universe. Another alternative is the theory of modified gravity, which suggests that our current understanding of gravity is incomplete and in need of revision. This theory proposes modifications to Einstein's general theory of relativity that could explain the observed acceleration without the need for dark energy. There's also several problems associated with detecting and measuring the effects of black holes on dark energy. One problem is that black holes are difficult to observe directly because they do not emit any light. Instead, astronomers must rely on indirect observation, like gravitational lensing of background stars and galaxies. Another problem is to distinguish the effects of black holes from other astrophysical phenomena that may also affect the expansion of the universe. For example, the distribution of matter in the universe can cause changes in the observed rate of expansion, which can be mistaken for the effects of dark energy generated by black holes. And finally, as with any scientific theory, further research and testing are needed to confirm or disprove the idea that black holes are a source of dark energy. This could include the use of new telescopes and observatories, such as the James Webb Space Telescope or the upcoming Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, to look for evidence of black holes and their influence on the expansion of the universe. It's also clear that we will need further theoretical work to refine our understanding of the physics of black holes and the nature of dark energy. As we continue to push the boundaries of our understanding of the universe, the possibility that black holes might be the key to unlocking the mystery of dark energy is a tempting prospect. Imagine the consequences of such a discovery. Not only will it shed light on the elusive force that dominates the cosmos, but it would revolutionize our understanding of the universe and our place in it. Instead of being mere cosmic disruptors, black holes will also be responsible for the expansion of the universe itself. This will require us to reconsider our views on fundamental physics and the nature of space-time, and may lead to new discoveries and breakthroughs in astrophysics and cosmology. This vision inspires scientists around the world to continue pushing the boundaries of knowledge, and it captures the imagination of all who dare to dream about the mysteries of the universe. Let us continue to explore this exciting frontier of science, and who knows what we may discover in the coming years. For our universe has been and will continue to be full of mystery and mystery.
Welcome back to
Okay, so I was just having a little bit of a back and forth with Fools and Tools in the chat. The reason why I played that video about the black hole concept is I'm constantly seeing patterns of the macro to micro, and in my years of meditation and looking within, there are times when I'm absolutely blown away with what I see within. And when I see presentations like that, I can't help but feel like it's just a constant spiral of um, macro to micro over and over again. And when we talk about the electric universe and we look at the cosmos, and it seems like it's all electrical, just like the current of electricity within the brain. It goes on and on. Um, so I'm glad that Fools and Tools picked up on that, because that's why I had played that. And the more I pay attention to other content creators' presentations, and the more I start to learn about physics and astrophysics and string theory, and you can go on and on. It just they're always good. There's so many components to try to grasp an understanding of what's going on around us. Um, so we're gonna switch roles back again. In the past, I've done streams on the Squatter Man theory that I was introduced to from the Thunderbolts project years ago, and learning about the signs of different plasma events, of different resets that have happened throughout um, time, and what the ancestors did in terms of their art on petroglyphs and uh, stone, and um, all different types of art. And they gave us these clues, they gave us these hints. And sometimes others, when they see these things, they think that they are UFOs, that they're aliens. And this gentleman, I've played his videos in the past as well, but he's going to tie all of this together in terms of bringing the Zodiac, uh, different times in history, and with these artifacts. Um, and that's another reason why I also did Jordan Maxwell's and chose to do it in this presentation too, because this all ties together. I'm just kind of reiterating it over and over again. So if it seems like it's too repetitious for you, I understand, but that's how I learn. So for further ado, here's our next presentation. And thanks. I really enjoy doing these live streams. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. I enjoy uh, making my brain work like it does when I participate and I'm in other people's chats. That's what I really enjoy doing. I love to learn. I'm not always necessarily agreeing with these ideas, um, but it's still always food for thought.
To Apocalypse in Genesis. I know everyone's worked up over the future of the United States, and so we argue about the relative merits of Trump and Harris. But you know what? We live in extraordinary times, and whomever you choose to put into power, the challenges they face alongside you will be the most vital ever. Try to awaken to the imminent return of the most fateful recurring event in human history. My prayer is that a few families will see what's coming and position themselves high enough and deep enough to thrive. 7 years ago, the Intel folks said we would lose 1 billion people next year, with a fifth of them coming from this country. You might note a few things on the slide. First, that circled symbol of the Gamma Ayin or Yod Aleph is truly ancient, and later it's remembered by the Christians. But I think it's a warning. Beware the first of Aries when the cycles renew, with the end of Pisces being particularly dangerous. The Minoan crown says the same thing, which I suspect recalls the sign of the dove, the heron, the dragon, the Holy Spirit, depending on whom you ask. The gem with the mysterious inscription points to a time when Venus returns to the first of Aries, and is also pointed out by Cassiopeia, the Queen of Heaven, which is a brilliant triangulation. The Ohuelan stone is about the rise of the phoenix when falls Lucifer like a comet at the first of Aries, where the Pictish stone indicates we will suffer a Pegasus reversal. Finally, I wanted to point out that everything gets much more interesting next spring, in terms more meaningful than Biden and Harris having lit 3 fuses to World War III, or pushing the BRICS nations to wrest power from the London branch of the House of Rothschild that brought us the American phony money system. I've probably mentioned we're looking for a specific time when a year has 2 eclipses on the equinoctial line stretching across the zodiac. The puzzle on the left suggests a serpent will be seen the day the axe falls on us, and that we will find that serpent at the first of Aries around the time of the second eclipse. Which brings to mind a couple of myths. First, we know Mars owns and proclaims Aries, and on the next year's second eclipse, Mars is being born in Virgo. Meanwhile, at the first of Aries will be Father Time, Saturn, Bar Shamash, a son of the Aquarian sun. My suspicion is that we're dealing with a very special day of the Shuba, the 7 great lights of heaven. That day was expected to be Thoth's great sacrifice when falls the axe. The Kaino axe points to a huge solar flare when the sky falls and a phoenix rises. What happens next is a quick pole shift. The verse it brings to mind is the first shall be last and the last shall be first. To my understanding, the punctuation for the beginning and end of God's Holy Week of roughly 26,000 years will be Saturn, and Nibiru will be opposite on the zodiac. Greeks and Egyptians remembered Helios as having a son named Phaeton who careened about, burning and then freezing the earth. In the Mandean book of John, it says of Abraham's family, Shab, that's the God of the South, is from your clan. The man who wrote the Torah, whose name is the Great Peacock, he came from your clan. Pavo, Peacock, is a central constellation near Crux and Lupus. And this southern hemisphere of the zodiac is the location of Nibiru Marduk, the second son of Enki, the Aquarian sun. So we have a great peacock who will rise and apparently devour his opposite number above the first of Aries. I speak of the great avatars as celestial objects or events because I'm very sure the embellished stories of our religious heroes were partly intended as a cipher, as an astronomical backdrop to history and legend. For example, one of the great secrets of religion, as in Revelation 13, is the coming reversal embedded in the apocalypse narratives. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, they depicted it with a lion on the pillar of the universe, attacking from above the boar of the north. Hydra will lay across the horizon pointed west, and Ursa Major will fall from the pole position. Something gives our planet a nudge from time to time, and your government doesn't want to speculate about it. It could affect the velocity of their tax revenue stream, and your child might not volunteer for the Ukraine, Tel Aviv, or Taipei in the coming war. What I eventually figured out is that there was a deity of the north and a deity of the south, one in the heaven of the bird dragon, the head of Quetzalcoatl, the Ouroboros, Cygnus, and Draco, and the Yahoo at the first of Aries. And there was one below the horizon that trades hemispheres. Last time, the deity who had worn a crown of bull horns handed it in for something resembling rabbit or donkey ears. Imagine a comet flying up from the horizon and 4 days later being on the opposite horizon, having changed our sky's pole star in the process. My hope is that the arrival of the heron at Saturn at the right hand of his Aquarian father will provide ample warning for the rise of the other Son of God from the south. The Bible puts the first Messiah, John the Baptist, 6 months before Jesus, our time difference between two eclipses of the apocalypse. You can vilify the Yod, the hand of God, Thoth, planet X as you might, but I believe he's the designated prophet whose journey across the sun's path marks the rise of the phoenix. Consider the objects as one system, unless you're rooting for one to win. The system is a red star that supposedly brings several objects here in tow, and when they swing by, Nibiru's brilliance greatly increases. The Maya spoke of a second sun, much brighter than the one we know. So together you can call them the Aries dragon, Typhon, the angel of death, Ahriman, the peacock angel. But it all begins with this Lamb of God or Bull of Heaven who comes upon a vernal equinox to cleanse the earth. Some 6,578 years ago, Ra and the sun said goodbye to Sahu, then a name for the Orion apocalypse that had brought a flare up from Sirius. And they left it in the south and headed north. We've already discussed signs of how next March appears to be signaling something huge in the near future. Here I thought it a bit odd that very different religious traditions recall the sky falling counterclockwise 26,000 years ago, as is about to repeat, with Pisces slain by Aquila and mourned by Virgo. It's midnight here in the Garden of Good and Evil, and we're about to lose a season or two when the sky falls. The piece on the left is Aztec, the one in the center, Olmec, the one on the right, Christian. Of note are the horns of an eclipse at the axis there on the left. Is that the eclipse that marks an age at the new first of Aries? And on the centerpiece, you have the idea of two pending pole shifts. And since neither of these facts is duplicated by the Christian symbology, one might surmise that religion has forgotten much of the plot in the last 6 millennia. If you were looking for a Rosetta Stone bridging American and Sumerian cultures, you might try the ancient planispheres. They are virtually identical star maps dividing history into 4 or 8 pieces, starting with when the heron showed up during an Orion apocalypse and a phoenix arose at the other side of the sky. You might also note the Ugaritic Zayin character marking Aquila. It's an ancient sign of the end when pole shift happens, for which their Aleph was the very same image of the visitors chasing each other at the pillar of the universe, but now laid on its side. Here's that day of the Venus triangulation of late March 2025, which doubles as a sign of the end for both the Ohuelans and the Vikings, the Algi's rune. If you look at the Eye of Horus, you find Orion, home of the last creation, was considered the serpent, whose theoretical opponent being Aquila will now slay her in the Aztec version of the story. On the left, you have the Talpiot tomb, where Israeli Antiquities Authority found the remains of Jesus and his family, then spent the next 44 years pretending it insignificant, probably to avoid a ruckus with the Vatican, who might have to rethink some things. You might watch James Cameron's special on the lost tomb of Jesus, or see the ossuary box S767 in the Israel Museum at Jerusalem. I believe the way the story goes on the tomb facade, that also carried an image of Seth, is that Horon and his serpent, or dragon and his beast, will head toward each other one equinox, and the world falls on its ear. then all the ancient mythologies and alphabets and scriptures will begin to make sense. The truth that sets us free will be the phoenix, probably in our time. What's coming sounds like the worst set of challenges since World War preceded and followed a market crash and global depression. It will require more heroic selfishness to survive than Jesus recommended for your soul. Ask yourself what's missing below the sign of the first of Aries at Pegasus. It's as if to say, here lies the Lion of Judah, whom you will meet as Shiloh, a word they never understood because it's an event. Cassiopeia will fall as Leo rises. Shema, Shab, Leo over Pisces. Heaven and hell trade places. Many of us will be leaving, and a new generation from heaven descends. See Virgil, the fourth pastoral. The Taino stone on left and right seems to indicate our problem arises at Virgo Leo and completes at Pisces Aquarius when the visitors return to the axis. I believe the little American stone kind of sums it up. Depending on when you live and which hemisphere you live, a serpent will fall like a comet and a heron or phoenix will rise, or vice versa. The serpent has a figure 8 orbit between Nibiru and our sun, and the phoenix rising has a polar orbit, or vice versa, but they get together at 90-degree angles, something like that. So it all happens at a crossing. A pipe I have shows the serpent cresting the heron, has 3 diamonds on his back, meaning I think that the newcomers show up in a line. Your ancestors were brilliant. They could carve into a little stone with a simple design what could take an entire Bible to obfuscate. The transition from Egyptian to Hebrew religion was a time of reform. The name of the god coming to town was Ah, meaning the moon is born, combining characters for the heron and serpent, together making the Ouroboros. The son of God then was named Moses, son of Ah, the Pharaoh who began kicking out the Hebrews. Later, his reforms, along with the monotheist heresy of Akhenaten, were carried to Canaan by an Assyrian priest named Osarseph, who changed his name to Moses when he came to lead the Scythians of Avaris back to Canaan. Another way to write Ah, sometimes depicted as a donkey god of the same name, was Yah. Notice if you combine the symbols for the son and mother, you end up with a Star of David. Also, on the name Yah, look at the spellings in Hebrew and Sebin. In Hebrew, the arm of God shows up at the eye in Aquarius. In Sabine, a heron falls and a phoenix rises at the first of Aries. Our ancestors were ingenious. The little symbol above shows the eye of the heron and the eye of the serpent are the same eye. And it's also a message at Lascaux, France. On the lower left, you can see the Maya made Mam the heron and Lamat, their name for the serpent or beast of the south. The Mayan Lamat, the one North America called Morning Star, became the Egyptian Seth, basically a god of the south who takes over when Pisces and Orion fall. With that name of God on the upper right, formed by both Horon and Nibiru Marduk, early Canaanites wandering the Sinai could have called the god of the apocalypse Am or Ma. You can see where that little sign of the Christians probably originated. It's also easy to spot the fundamental disagreement of Aaron molding a golden calf and Moses having a brazen serpent made. They were representatives of the two ancient priesthoods. One was victorious. Here you can see the whole experience of the apocalypse, a bit confusing. The feet of the god get raised up from behind the sun while his head falls. Personally, I wouldn't get too excited about calling one the Most High God and the other a wannabe usurper who needs to fall. I see them both as celestial objects that must swing by during the time of the crossing. There are stones showing both the lion and the heron, serving one higher than themselves, who is now due for a visit. In 4553 BC, the vernal equinox was leaving Gemini for Taurus. Orion flew to the top of the class soon after the final eclipse of Gemini and the first of Orion. It was a time of communion, lots of red dust poisoning the air and waters. You might note the similarity of Orion's image on the large Wayland stone to that Yahweh of Seir there on the lower left. On the triangular piece, it's obvious that the blue object that drew fire from the dying Piscean sun gave rise to the Orion apocalypse. Here's another view of when Taurus got spun around by Leo. It can go two ways, you know. At Persepolis, monuments suggest Leo slayed the bull. But in a much older petroglyph at Chauvet Cave in France, the bull had sex with the lioness. Our lesson is that the planet still wobbles because we have these visiting objects swinging by from time to time. Like the current political histrionics of the United States, you can pretend life is a duality in which you appropriate virtue to your side and deny it to others, the principle on which we base our wars, or you can realize there is something bigger going on. Before Moses and his Sethian reform of the Assyrians, the Canaanites treated the two principal objects of the apocalypse as one god, called El, which was fundamentally the arrival of the Aries dragon to Orion the shepherd. Earlier, the same name could equally have served the Leo creation. Now that the Aries dragon is due to show up at the new first of Aries, we would spell the name as Ea, or I. We've talked about how the world gets turned upside down when the Lamb of God or Aries dragon or Abzu comes to town. What we don't talk about is how he clearly is involved in a periodic pruning of the tree of life. I imagine this was some of the story being invoked by Abraham's story of a goat in the thicket when he decided to reform the ancient religion of human sacrifice. And please don't regard that as some sort of barbaric anomaly. It was fairly common for primitive people to remember the apocalypse, which I suppose to be a once central and now forgotten function of religion. On the obelisk at Heliopolis, it sets out the relationship of the heron and his son, the gods of the north and south. When the world turns over, dualistic religions might have to switch as well. Rather than get caught worshiping the wrong god every 6,500 years, the Maya invested in both eagle priests, called the Atzul, and jaguar priests, the Akinchel. The middle piece was to show the two gods were seen at opposite sides of the sky and opposite sides of the sun. The ring on the left shows Thoth's name was essentially about the reversal they bring. The Roman one, influenced by Alexandria in the middle, hints that we're also talking about this time when we await eclipses between the pillars Aries and Capricorn. It may not happen immediately, but it was expected in this time. At Lascaux, you can see a claw falling on Pegasus in a time of comets and fireballs, perhaps a meteor storm. Remember back when George Bush was doing the hook'em horns and Lady Gaga was doing the claw? They were basically remembering different gods, or perhaps different aspects of the same god. Again, this is at Lascaux. You can see the heron or phoenix with a serpent's body showed up between Aries and Capricorn, with that meteor storm coming during a pole shift. This is the Venus of Brasempouy. She's about 25,000 years old. I believe the archaeologists got it wrong when they called her the Dame à la Capuche, lady with a hood. Again, I believe this is about the meteor storm that comes in this time with rocks deorbiting from the cloud of debris around planet X, hitting us in the middle of a pole shift. Here you can see two gods at the Tree of Life, both worshiping a greater God above. Notice the one on the left is standing on a podium. Since we lose height as we age, and I've lost about half a foot, I'm thinking that's the older guy. You can see something very similar at the Mayan Temple of the Cross, which leads me to believe the object seen as Lucifer or Ahriman is smaller and less bright than the red star to be raised up during the Son of God's coronation. I realize that many believe precession was discovered by Hipparchus of Nicaea in the 2nd century BC, and that is just flat wrong. The wisdom was in America, India, China, Sumer, Russia, Egypt, Indonesia, and old Europe long before. You can call me delusional, but I see the heron followed by the phoenix on that guy's helmet. I really believe that ancient art was all about remembering the gods of the apocalypse. Apparently, ancient Canaan remembered Horon by the Resh and his son by the name Ish. In Hebrew, the latter name meant a man or husband. See Hosea 2:16. At Lascaux, there is a slight hint of the Aleph and Shin at the feet of Pegasus, the Aleph being planet X, Horon, Thoth, and he is followed closely by the phoenix or serpent about to be raised high. On the Sasanian gem and the Greek bronze, you can see the goddess holding onto the axis, as well as the owl or raven, which is one of the places to watch along the Aries-Virgo line of the equinoxes. On the Celtic gold stater, you can see the Shema at the bottom. When the shin of Leo gets tossed and becomes a hay. In Ugaritic, that would have been the L and the H with the same meaning. The pillar of the universe falls, or in the words of the Bible, God rested on the seventh day. The other night, one of my brothers said, my unbelief has levels. I soon realized how difficult it is to get anyone to believe that people 25,000 years ago could have divided the zodiac the same way we do and had the exact same sign for the first of Aries, or the idea that God cyclically swings through our solar system, or on the other hand, how easy it is for any discussion of star signs to fall on deaf ears. So yeah, don't try to tell your priest about astronomy in your Bible. He truly doesn't want to know. For example, when Jesus was saying the Son of Man, Ishi, would be lifted up on high, it's essentially the same imagery as Moses raising the brazen serpent in the wilderness. Greeks remembered Apollo laying down his staff, that is the cosmic pillar, thereby changing the horizon 90 degrees, and two visitors climbing on like serpents. At the root, prophecy is often ancient history, and we would do well to declare peace with the other religions. A Jew's mikveh for purification is a Christian's baptism, is a Muslim's voodoo rituals, all reminders of a flood brought by the heron. I believe the little pipe on the left was Toltec. The image on the right is Zeus Ammon. But they're both about the coming of the heron and the serpent, a sky god and his earth goddess. Before Jeremiah's reform that divided his people, some went north and never looked back, the deities had a much better relationship. The way it was explained to me was in a little story that didn't make the Bible. It placed Jacob at the beginning of time when this planet was being settled. Jacob had a vision in which God spoke to him about the wickedness of man and told him to lead his people to salvation, to seek a living world and worship her as we do him. She would provide for us, and we must respect her and rejoice in her sanctuary. The Spirit is God who joined with the Mother Earth to create us all. His Spirit lives within each of us. We were told to look after the goddess, learn the stars, look to the heavens, and read the signs. And if we fail to respect her during our sojourn here, the punishment humanity suffers will be terrible. If you get the chance one day, take a look at a chart of the most ancient alphabets and see if you can see any patterns in what they were attempting to describe with the various sounds. What I noticed is that the holy names were often trying to communicate something about creation. Het, the great god or goddess of life, shows the first of Aries rotating about the zodiac once a precession, where it lands on the great atom, being Aquarius, Phoenix, and Orologium as the central figure. Thoth was about reversal, Aquarius turning upside down and backwards, as if we just moved to Australia. A nod to the Sabines would be a story of the Phoenix rising from Virgo, the sky spinning to the left and a change in the equinoxes. In Yahoo, you can have a heron falling, phoenix rising, serpent as a hand of God, pillar of the universe falling, and an eclipse involved when it goes down. This piece was pretty shocking. On the upper left, you can see the eye of the eagle is the eye of the lion, like the little image showing the eye of the heron and the eye of the serpent being the same eye, because planet X aligns with Nibiru. Can you see how the lion's right arm looks like a serpent, just like the ancient Yod? The real shocker for me was the symbol of life on the book held by the lion. For me, it brought the realization that our religion was handed to us many millennia ago. It wasn't thought up by Seth 6,000 years ago, or Abraham 4,000 years ago, or Moses 3,000 years ago, or Jesus 2,000 years ago. It has been here as long as humanity. We didn't know. We have reached the end of the precession. So when Leviticus 26:18 and Herodotus 2:123 tell us we get 8 lives, 3 millennia apart before God decides what finally to do with us, we really ought to start thinking about the coming judgment. Because regardless of how woke and atheist our culture might be at the time, it's high time we got with the program. I mean, you can basically do that 2 ways. First, you start pruning away the easy errors out of your life. Toss the dope, throw out the booze, give up the affair, ignore 30% of the internet dedicated to porn. Stop fighting about trivial stuff, and believe me, compared to what's coming, everything we know is trivial. Second, work at being a blessing to the earth and all her creatures. In doing so, you will be doing the work of God. At some point, I realized my brother was right, that if we can't agree on first principles, then he can't get here from there. So yes, I make a few assumptions. One, the houses of the Zodiac were both incredibly ancient and purposeful. Some of the ancients used lunar houses in their observations, others used the sun. I care about the sun. 2, the split face with the alien eyes signifies the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aquarius. 3, using only that landmark as the great index or axis, one can estimate when humanity gets into trouble. 4, the events that excite the sun and cause the biggest Earth anomalies are from outside the solar system, such as visiting objects or distant nova or passing through the Milky Way's accretion disk. The other day, I was conversing with the daughter of a neighbor, a married mother of 2 whose kids were busy watching Despicable Me. And she asked what I'll do when I get to the end of next year and nothing dramatic has taken place. I told her I thought I would quit spending my spare change on old rocks and change the subject of my message, because at long last I do see the futility of Babylonians and ancient Chinese keeping astronomical records and trying to glean lessons from the celestial signs flying by. That said, I still find it amazing that 26,000 years ago, individuals looking like conehead aliens were, according to the stones and scriptures, engineering the human genome, teaching us science, and gifting us law and religion, which is especially fascinating when those religions include the notion that they will return when we need them the most, and that signs in the sky they observed as fatal are largely the same as the ones you and I have been watching since 2010. When I was the youngest deacon at Sacramento's First Baptist Church, I remember there was a poorly dressed, wrinkly old dude carrying an end of the world placard, passing out flyers. He was there every Sunday between morning services to harass us. And I remember thinking just how useless his message was. Looking back, it feels like my punishment for ignoring him was to become him and to give people the same reaction. The ancients called it the curse of Cassandra. Apollo gave her the second sight and then condemned her never to be believed. Shema bless you and keep you now and forever. Take care. Welcome back to Apocalypse and Genesis.
Oops, I made that skip. Not what I really wanted to do. Push the wrong button. Okay, so let's do some more patterns here about people's concepts of how they are influenced by planets or the sun in their religions and their cultures. The next one is going to talk about Saturn. I hope you guys are all enjoying these videos as much as I did. I've had these saved up for quite some time, and like I was mentioning to Fools and Tools, it is Sunday evening here, so you're already in tomorrow. I don't do these streams very often, so I'm trying to pack in a lot of these videos in one stream. So if you guys have to leave and you come back and you listen, I hope you enjoy them. Thanks for everyone who's here.
Throughout history, few celestial bodies have inspired as much intrigue, fear, and reverence as Saturn. This ringed planet, the sixth from the Sun, is not only a marvel of the natural world, but also a central figure in ancient myths and occult traditions. Throughout history, Saturn has been associated with time, death, and the inevitable decay that comes with both. Today, we explore the enigmatic history of the cult of Saturn, an ancient belief system that has left its mark on various religions and cultures. We will delve into the origins of this cult, its symbolic connections to the hexagon found on Saturn's North Pole, and how these symbols have permeated human consciousness and belief systems across millennia. The origins and evolution of the cult of Saturn. The cult of Saturn is one of the most enigmatic and oldest belief systems known to humanity. Saturn, known as Kronos in Greek mythology, was the god of time, often depicted as an old man with a sickle, symbolizing the harvest and the inevitable passage of time. Kronos, a titan, was also the god of agriculture, a reminder of the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. His reign was considered the Golden Age, a time of abundance and peace. But it was also marked by the darker aspect of time, the inevitable decay and destruction that follows creation. However, the worship of Saturn predates even the Greek and Roman civilizations. Scholars suggest that the roots of the Saturnian cult can be traced back to early Mesopotamian and Sumerian cultures, where Saturn was linked to deities such as Enlil, the god of wind, air, earth, and storms. Enlil, much like Saturn, was a god of great power, both feared and revered. He was seen as a creator, but also a destroyer, capable of bringing life, but also death through his wrath. This duality, creation and destruction, life and death, became a central theme in the worship of Saturn across different cultures. In ancient Egypt, Saturn was associated with the god Osiris, the lord of the underworld, who also embodied the themes of death and resurrection. Osiris, much like Saturn, was a complex deity, representing the cycle of life and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. The Egyptians saw the passage of time as a cycle, with death being a necessary step for the rebirth of the soul, a belief that resonated deeply with the worship of Saturn. As human civilizations evolved, so did the worship of Saturn. In Rome, Saturn was celebrated during the festival of Saturnalia, a week-long period of revelry, role reversals, and the suspension of societal norms. This festival, held in December, became the precursor to many modern celebrations, including Christmas. During Saturnalia, the social order was upended. Slaves were treated as equals to their masters, gifts were exchanged, and a spirit of equality and community prevailed, echoing the golden age of Saturn's rule. Yet, the darker aspects of Saturn were never far from the surface. As the god of time, Saturn was also the devourer of all things, including his own children, as depicted in the myth where Kronos eats his offspring to prevent them from usurping his throne. This act of devouring symbolizes the inescapable nature of time, which consumes everything in its path, leading to the eventual end of all things. Saturn as the dark sun. One of the more esoteric and intriguing aspects of the Saturnian mythos is the idea that Saturn was once a dark sun, a primordial star that was the original source of light for our planet. This concept, rooted in alternative cosmology, posits that before the current solar system configuration, Saturn was a central sun around which Earth and other planets orbited. This period, often referred to as the purple dawn of creation, is said to have been a time of great tranquility, where the Earth was bathed in the dim, purplish light of Saturn. According to this hypothesis, Saturn was a brown dwarf star that emitted a soft, diffuse light, creating an environment vastly different from the one we know today. The sky was not the bright blue we see now, but a deep, purplish hue, with Saturn looming large as a constant presence in the sky. This era, shrouded in myth and speculation, is thought to have ended when Saturn was pulled into the current solar system's heliocentric orbit, where it was demoted from a star to a planet. This cataclysmic event is said to have caused massive upheavals on Earth, including floods, earthquakes, and other natural disasters, which were recorded in the myths and legends of ancient cultures. The displacement of Saturn from its central position to the outer reaches of the solar system marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one, an era dominated by the sun as we know it today. This theory, while not widely accepted in mainstream science, has found a place in the realm of esoteric thought and alternative history. It suggests that the ancient worship of Saturn as the dark sun or black sun is a remembrance of this lost era, when Saturn was the ruler of the skies and the bringer of life. The mysterious hexagon of Saturn. Perhaps the most intriguing and mysterious feature of Saturn is the massive hexagon-shaped storm at its north pole. Discovered by the Voyager spacecraft in the 1980s and later observed in greater detail by the Cassini mission, this hexagon is a cloud pattern approximately 20,000 miles wide, with each side roughly the same length as Earth's diameter. The persistence and symmetry of this structure have puzzled scientists and sparked the imagination of mystics and occultists alike. From a scientific perspective, the hexagon is believed to be a result of atmospheric dynamics unique to Saturn. The planet's rapid rotation, combined with its complex weather patterns, creates a standing wave in the atmosphere, forming the hexagonal shape. Despite this explanation, the hexagon's perfect symmetry and its continuous presence for decades, if not centuries, have led many to believe that there is more to this phenomenon than meets the eye. In the realm of sacred geometry, the hexagon holds profound significance. It is a symbol of harmony, balance, and the underlying order of the universe. The hexagon is found throughout nature, in everything from honeycombs to crystals, and is associated with the number 6, a number that represents creation, structure, and the cosmic order. The hexagon is also linked to the Star of David, a symbol that holds deep religious and cultural significance in Judaism and is connected to the notion of divine protection and unity. The appearance of the hexagon on Saturn has led some to speculate that it is a manifestation of the planet's deeper connection to cosmic laws and sacred geometry. It is seen as a symbol of the hidden order of the universe, a glimpse into the mysterious forces that govern the cosmos. For those who delve into the esoteric, the hexagon on Saturn is not just a weather pattern, it is a sign, a marker of Saturn's role as a keeper of time and a gateway to other dimensions. Saturn's influence on religions and cultures. The influence of Saturn and the symbolism associated with it extends far beyond the ancient myths. Over time, Saturn's symbols have permeated various religious and cultural practices, often in ways that are subtle and hidden in plain sight. One of the most pervasive symbols associated with Saturn is the black cube, a geometric shape that has appeared in religious and esoteric contexts throughout history. In Judaism, the tefillin, small black boxes containing verses from the Torah, are worn on the head and arm during prayer. These boxes are cube-shaped and are seen as a physical manifestation of the spiritual connection between the individual and the divine. The tefillin symbolize the binding of the individual to God's commandments, representing the unity and wholeness of the divine law. In Islam, the most sacred site is the Kaaba in Mecca, a large black cube around which Muslims perform the tawaf, or circumambulation, during the Hajj pilgrimage. The Kaaba is the focal point of Muslim prayer and is considered the house of God. The act of circumambulation, where pilgrims walk around the Kaaba 7 times, is seen by some as a reflection of the orbital patterns of the planets, particularly Saturn, with its prominent rings. This association of Saturn with the black cube and the number 7, found in the 7 rings of Saturn and the 7 circumambulations, suggests a deep, symbolic connection between the physical structure of the Kaaba and the esoteric significance of Saturn. The black cube, in this context, represents the material world, the physical realm governed by time, space, and the laws of nature, domains traditionally ruled by Saturn. In Christianity, the day of worship, Saturday, is derived from Saturn's Day, a day associated with rest, reflection, and the passage of time. The connection between Saturn and the concept of time is also evident in the figure of Father Time, often depicted with a scythe, an attribute of Saturn as the harvester, and the hourglass, a symbol of the inevitable flow of time. The influence of Saturn in religious practices is thus subtle yet profound, weaving through the fabric of various belief systems and shaping their rituals and symbols. The black cube has also appeared in other contexts, such as in the worship of Baal and Moloch, ancient deities associated with Saturn. In these rituals, the black cube symbolizes the material world, the constraints of physical existence, and the inevitable decay that comes with time. It serves as a reminder of the limitations imposed by the physical realm and the need to transcend these boundaries to achieve spiritual liberation. The darker side of Saturn, Saturn's association with death and decay, is not merely symbolic. It has been central to some of the most macabre and controversial practices in human history. The worship of Saturn has often been linked to rituals of sacrifice, particularly human sacrifice, as a way to appease the god and ensure the continuation of the cosmic order. These practices, though abhorrent by modern standards, were seen by ancient civilizations as necessary to maintain the balance of the universe. In ancient Carthage, the worship of the god Baal, identified with Saturn, involved the sacrifice of infants to ensure the prosperity of the city. These children were offered in a gruesome ritual known as the Moloch sacrifice, where they were burned alive in large, hollow statues of the god. The belief was that these sacrifices would bring favor from the gods, ensuring good harvests, fertility, and protection from enemies. This dark aspect of Saturn worship highlights the god's dual nature as both a bringer of life and a harbinger of death. The theme of sacrifice is also present in the myth of Kronos, who devoured his own children to prevent them from overthrowing him. This act of cannibalism is a metaphor for the relentless march of time, which consumes everything in its path. The myth also serves as a warning of the dangers of absolute power and the inevitable consequences of trying to cheat time or fate. Saturn's role as a symbol of control extends beyond these ancient rituals into modern times. In various secret societies and occult traditions, Saturn is seen as the ruler of the material world, the force that governs the physical and temporal realms. This control is not just over time, but over the structures of society, the limitations imposed by physical reality, and the boundaries of human existence. Some conspiracy theories suggest that the elite, those who hold power in modern society, are followers of Saturnian principles, using the symbolism of the black cube and other Saturn-related imagery to assert their control over the masses. These theories propose that the pervasive presence of Saturn's symbols in corporate logos, government buildings, and popular culture is evidence of a hidden agenda, one that seeks to maintain control over humanity by keeping it bound to the material world. While these theories are often dismissed as mere speculation, they reflect a deep-seated fear of the power that Saturn represents, the power of time, decay, and death. Whether or not these theories hold any truth, they serve as a reminder of Saturn's enduring influence on the human psyche and its role as a symbol of the darker aspects of existence. Conclusion. As we conclude this exploration of the cult of Saturn, it is clear that this ancient belief system has left a lasting legacy. From the myths of Kronos to the rituals of Saturnalia, from the hexagon on Saturn's pole to the black cube in religious and esoteric traditions, the symbols of Saturn continue to influence our world in profound ways. Saturn reminds us of the duality of existence, the balance between creation and destruction, life and death, order and chaos. It challenges us to confront the darker aspects of life, to embrace the passage of time, and to seek the deeper truths that lie hidden beneath the surface. The cult of Saturn is not just a relic of the past, it is a living tradition that continues to shape our understanding of the universe and our place within it. Whether we view Saturn as a god, a symbol, or a cosmic enigma, its influence is undeniable. And as we continue to explore the mysteries of the cosmos, Saturn will remain a powerful reminder of the eternal cycles that govern our existence. In the end, the true history of the cult of Saturn is a story of humanity's quest for meaning, a journey that continues to this day. It is a reminder that the answers we seek are often hidden in the most unexpected places, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look beyond the surface and into the depths of the unknown. If you're fascinated by esoteric knowledge and cosmic mysteries, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more intriguing content like this. See you in the next video.
What's up, everybody? I want to put this up.
Okay, so Raykar just made an interesting observation, and that Baal literally meant Lord. And it goes back to the other videos and even back to Jordan Maxwell in the beginning of the stream, and that each reset has a new religion, and they have different names for their gods or for the god. And we're kind of going through that right now, aren't we? With the New World Order, one world religion. The Pope has been making some interesting statements lately. I don't really want to focus too much on that, but interesting, isn't it? The next one is going to go back to talking about the cyclical events through history. These are going to be the last two videos for the night. And this is Static in the Attic, but this is his other, his new channel, Static History. And he does another really great job of bringing historical events together in a way for me to understand things that I haven't really put much mind to in the past, but I really appreciate his content.
Up over here on Static History because I know there's a lot of people that say there's no such thing as comet and meteorite impact events because the firmament is an impenetrable dome up above us. And I'm going to show you guys that I think that that's a complete misinterpretation of the text. And just look at the picture right here. He's not sticking his head through the firmament out into space. He's sticking his head out into the pleroma, the sublime ethereal world beyond our physical world. And I think this is important to understand because the oldest mythology on earth is telling us of impact events. We've had cyclical disasters since the beginning of time, and for many different reasons. There are the smaller grand solar minimum interferences, and there's the cosmic thunderbolt plasma shot from the sun. But I think the really big world age ending events are usually caused by impact events. Something has to produce all of that energy to cause the disturbance. You don't just go from static to 100-foot tsunamis for no reason. I even have written record in the East in the 1300s of a meteorite taking out a radius of 200 kilometers. So if your cosmology includes a firmament and you disregard all cometary impacts because of that, let me show you why I think that's incorrect. First off, the idea of the firmament comes from the Bible, and it's only mentioned like 5 or 6 times in there. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Now, pretty much the whole internet has interpreted that as dividing our sky from, quote, space. But if you look back at what the Gnostics believed, then you get a good idea of how the ancient mind viewed everything. Dividing the waters below from the waters above isn't dividing Earth from space, it's dividing the entire material universe from the pleroma, the heaven above, the sublime ethereal realm. I don't get any of my information from NASA unless I'm needing a good laugh, but there are thousands of amateur astronomers that have taken pictures of the sun in big, crazy plasma bursts like this. But this thing is burning hot, whether through chemical or electrical means is debatable. We feel the heat coming off of this every day. So it really doesn't make sense that this is in the waters above. So if we use the Gnostic interpretation of that verse, it was the dividing of the waters above the pleroma and the waters below the abyss, the material world. But let's keep going here. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. Some good old Hebrew parallelism there, where they say the same thing twice. And God called the firmament heaven. Now, they just used to use the word heaven for sky and space. They didn't differentiate. Hebrew only has about 8,000 words, where ancient Greek was something like 200,000. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So the lights are in the firmament of heaven. And then we've got some more parallelism. I'm just showing every use of the term that there is in the Bible. But once again, lights in the firmament of heaven. Then it says, "And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." So the birds can fly in the firmament of heaven. The stars and the sun and moon are in the firmament of heaven. So the firmament is not an impenetrable dome. That all came from, I won't say whose video, that just threw in that it's an impenetrable dome. This is every usage of the term in Genesis, and it says that the birds fly in the firmament of heaven, and the stars and sun and moon are in the firmament, and they are obviously moving in relation to the stars behind them. So now let's look at the cosmology of the day. They had a geocentric point of view where the earth is the center of the universe. And then there were the seven heavenly bodies orbiting around the earth. This is where we get the term the seven heavens. They viewed the heavens being divided by the orbital path of each heavenly body. Here it is. The earth was thought to be surrounded by nested transparent crystal spheres, the seven heavens of Proverbs. But I think they were using the term crystal to just mean transparent, not a physical object. And this is probably where the impenetrable dome came from. But in some of the oldest mythology we have, there was a fight between Saturn, Kronos, and Jupiter, Zeus, and they were hurling rocks that fell down to earth. So they knew that things were passing through these so-called crystal spheres. And they put the firmament dividing the waters above from the waters below way out here at the layer of the stars. And what they have beyond that is the ethereal pleroma, the highest heavens. And that's what they have here. This guy is escaping the abyss, the soul trap of the material world, and he is poking his head through the firmament into the pleroma. So the firmament that divides the waters above from the waters below is way out beyond the stars. Therefore, everything in the material universe is within the firmament. And that includes comets and meteors that have impacted us many times, and they actually cover this up. They've made impact events into just science fiction, but there's a lot of good reasons that folklore says that comets are the harbingers of very bad things. Now, I'll admit that it's strange that meteor craters like this don't leave a debris field, because almost every meteorite I've ever seen comes in at an angle, and it seems like most of them airburst, like the Tunguska event and Chibelinks that I'm showing here. So I do find it strange that there's not a mound of dirt that was displaced here. But for the one in Arizona, I think it's because
I wanted to play this video because the last one that I did, I was speaking about uh, comets and meteors and paying attention to the signs of this cycle that we're going through. So I thought that this was really fascinating that he put this together because there's those of us that are really noticing these cues here. And on my community page, I had posted some updates on some comets that are passing right now, and more on Apophis. And let's just hope that they don't leave any friends behind, because this seems to be what happens. These meteors come down and they create absolute havoc, and which also contributes to these resets and creates catastrophes like they do. Um, so I will be paying close attention to future comets and meteor showers.
The ancient Lake Connibus collapsed and flooded the entire Green River Valley and formed the Grand Canyon in a matter of days. And I'll cover all that in future videos. But I just wanted to say, I think it's unwise to write off impact events because of the idea of the firmament, because that is just a misinterpretation of the text. If birds can fly in the firmament, then so can comets and meteorites. What I'm showing here is the guy from the last Druid documentary, and he says that they have a history of these events. He says that we were caught in the tail of a giant comet that was just raining down rocks, big electrical storms, and even says the whole reason the dolmens were built were as fallout shelters from these. And he says if you pay attention, you'll notice that none of these are too close to the coastline and they're high up on a hill. So when the tsunami comes, you're high and dry. He also says how these were built. He says they were built using psychic powers. I'm not going to try to argue his case on that, but cultures from around the world have legends and mythology of these impactors. And I don't think these meteorite hunters are running around with blowtorches, melting river rock and inserting rare metals and then selling them for tens of thousands of dollars. There's also micro spirals that can be found for thousands of miles around an impact site. So if you believe that there's a firmament, I don't think that that removes impact events from the realm of possibilities, because it seems like they've happened a lot. I think it all stems from a misinterpretation of what the firmament is. Static out. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Static History. I'm just getting this channel up and going. This video is a couple years old to me, but if you've never heard this stuff, it's going to be just as mind-blowing for you as when I first heard it. Actually, I watched it last night and was kind of like, wow, I made that. But just so you know, I've already got about 70, 80 of these videos on file. And of course, I've learned more and more throughout the years. So once this channel's up and going, I'll start dropping the latest. So if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to help the channel grow, drop a like and comment, please. Enjoy. I found it quite educational last night and I made it.
The order of which I may be the last member, by tradition, came into existence after the last great cataclysm or catastrophe which affected the world.
What's up, guys? That opening clip was from the last Druid documentary. Hopefully, I didn't get copyrighted and have to go back and read the transcript. And when the guy's got birds eating out of his hand, that's a little bit of street cred that he's got some Druid going on. We'll get back to him in a minute. I'm going to be going through a lot of stuff, so there will be a chronology in the description and comments if you want to skip a section. But two things I'm going to show basically beyond a shadow of a doubt are that the so-called fall of the Roman Empire had a lot more to do with the earth run amuckus cycle than it did with Alaric and the sack of Rome. And that 536 AD, the worst year ever to be alive, is a date that historians have recently agreed to attribute all this to, and the timeline's been messed with. I'll do my best to list sources as we go. Two documentaries that I will be quoting from are shown here on the screen. These are professionally produced. It's not some random person that says, I heard this. And I'll start with their opener to give you a basic idea of what was going on. In the 6th century, something terrifying happened to the world's climate, something nobody could understand. The sun began to go dark, rain the color of blood poured from the skies, clouds of fine dust enveloped the earth, and winter gripped the land for 2 years. Then came drought, famine, and the bubonic. Yeah, there's certain words I don't want to say and get back in the doghouse. But whole cities were wiped out, civilizations crumbled, and nobody knows why. It's been generally accepted for a long time that a volcano was the cause of all of this, but I've got some pretty credible sources that are saying that all of this came from the sky. And when you look at the old woodcuts and paintings, the clouds and lightning are not allegorical. It got really cold and there were bad electrical storms. You even see the houses on fire in the background. Now, this woodcut is from the 14th century Black D, but 536 AD and the 14th century events are so identical, one starts to wonder if they're the same event. Now, our friend the last druid here says that his order began 3,000 years ago, which roughly lines up with the Bronze Age collapse, the biblical Exodus. And listen to how he describes the events if they'll let me play it.
Now, with these great and terrible impacts on the Earth by great electrical storms being caught up in the tails of meteors or showers of meteorites, civilization as we know it was totally destroyed.
He goes on to say that if you look at the great megalithic complexes in Ireland, what we would call the dolmens, you'll see that what are described as passage graves are really fallout shelters. And I'll bet you whatever you want to bet that the cliff dwellings out west are there for the same purpose. I've been out here to Mesa Verde and then Canyon of the Ancients nearby. And Mesa Verde is on top of a huge mountain that is hard to get up to. I'm talking, it would take a couple days walking up from the valley below. And then these cliff dwellings are 50, 60 feet up from the small canyons that lead into them. They're very hard to get to. They're nowhere near a water source. And they went through a lot of trouble to have something really solid above their heads. And the official dating even says that they're abandoned right at the 1300s cycle. It looks to me like the people were living down in the Montezuma Valley and then needed to take shelter and went up there. And it was just a temporary, 20, 30 years, who knows? How long does it take before you're convinced the sky isn't going to fall on you? So he could be talking about the late Bronze Age collapse or the 536 AD event, but he describes fiery meteors in the sky, a meteor storm, and also great electrical storms. So let's look at some mythology, and they tell the exact same story. Now, everybody's heard of Zeus's thunderbolt, the cosmic thunderbolt. So I'm not going to go into too much detail since he's of the old Gaelic order. Let's start with Irish mythology. And we have Lugh, the king of the Tuatha De Danann. He is a solar deity, and wouldn't you know it, he has several magical possessions. He wields an unstoppable fiery spear and a sling stone. And the official interpretation of mythology is just absolutely atrocious. I mean, to me, it looks plain as day, but they say, oh, well, it's signifying him defeating the night. And they do the same with all mythology. He is a solar deity, which means he's up in the sky. He's got a fiery spear and throwing stones down at people. I mean, am I crazy here? The Aztec war god Huitzilopochtli. He also has a formidable weapon, a fire serpent, which is actually a ray of the sun. So plasma and fire in the heavens. And it says that he chopped up Coyolxauhqui, which is the moon goddess, into several large chunks and lobbed her down the side of the mountain. So the exact same story, fire and rocks coming down from above. Even in Hebrew tradition, the name seraphim literally means fire serpent. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what really goes on, and we'll get to the scientific papers concerning this in a second. But after all the fireworks in 536 AD, the Japanese king wrote, "Food is the basis of the empire. Yellow gold and 10,000 strings of cash cannot cure hunger. What avails 1,000 boxes of pearls to him who is starving of cold? In the chronicles of Nanxi, southern China, records show yellow dust rain down like snow. It could be scooped up in handfuls. And that's not snow you're looking at, that is ash. And if you think about the bigger consequences of this, anybody who is relying on a creek or a river to get their water is basically done. That water is contaminated. I'm sure that wealthy people had enough casks of wine to hold them through. But at that time in history, if your whole country's blanketed in ash, then a lot of people aren't going to make it. Now, like I said, there could have been multiple calamities going on. This could have been a volcano and a comet, but could a comet alone account for all of this? Well, let's look at this paper from astrophysicists at Harvard EDU, and they make mention of records saying the sun appeared like the moon. Just so you know, this was for 18 months, so there were no crops grown for 2 years basically. And based off the tree ring data, they estimate a decrease of 3 degrees Celsius mean temperature. And they make the assumption that the entire comet was destroyed in an air burst, which we'll talk about in just a second. The debris is then spread around the globe roughly uniformly, and then they go into their calculations. Long story short, their conclusion was the surprising result of just how small a comet fragment was needed to cause the observed effect. A comet less than a kilometer in diameter has not been previously considered to represent a global hazard, let alone one of a half kilometer. Now, they're not saying conclusively that it was a comet or meteor at 536, just that it would only required a half kilometer one. I've had a lot of comments over the years, and it's not been lost on me about meteor craters, so called. The problem with these are that they're almost perfectly round or at least symmetrical. Now, what are the odds that some object comes flying in 20,000 miles an hour and impacts at a perfect 90 degree? I've seen a lot of these things and they all come streaking in at an angle. And thanks everybody for pointing out that some of these were slowed down. I get tunnel vision sometime and I'm just dumb. But just about every one of them that I've seen is an airburst. This is the Chelyabinsk airburst from 10 years ago. I've had a lot of people tell me that it's plasma, there's no solid object, and I have to disagree. This one is quarter sawn, and you see the burnt part on top. A lot of them are iron, but some are made up of very rare materials, and these go for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are professional meteorite hunters that go out and find these. So I don't think people are spending that kind of money on river rock, even if you melt it somehow. So it seems to me if these come in at an angle, then it would create a bit of a trench and throw a bunch of debris in the opposite direction. But I've never seen that on any of the meteor craters. So theory number one would be that it comes in, it air bursts, and then the shock wave going down creates the impact crater. The second would be that certain metal compositions are holding an electrical charge and it discharges like an arc welder just before impact. It's worth a video in itself just to look at impact craters and the landscape in general and compare it to arc welds like what you're looking at here. When you look into it, these marks line up pretty well. Theory three would be that these are caused by the sun, either an electrical induction, an arc, and there's your cosmic thunderbolt going all the way to the sun, or a big chunk of plasma flies off the sun and hits us. But once again, in that case, it's not likely to hit straight down at a 90-degree angle. Anyway, before I get too off track, let's get back to 536. This is an article by Live Science study leader Abbott of Columbia University at the American Geophysical Union. So all kinds of street cred here. Well, penguin cred anyway. Fragment of Halley's Comet hit Earth in 536, causing drought and famine and started the Dark Ages, I might add. She says a piece of the famous Halley's Comet likely slammed into Earth, blasting so much dust into the atmosphere that it cooled the planet and made humanity more susceptible to Justinian's plague, which the firsthand accounts, historical accounts that I'll get to in a minute, contributed to the stuff in the air. These are new results and definitely weren't published last time I was looking into the subject, but they found evidence of atmospheric dust for a 7-year period, High levels of tin were found in the dust. I've always heard iridium as well indicates a comet. It was done in the springtime, which points to the Eta Aquariid meteor shower, which is fragments from Halley's Comet in the past. They also calculate a 3 degree Celsius temperature drop. And she says that it's likely there was also a small volcanic effect. But check this out. The major thing is that something hit the ocean. They found circumstantial evidence that Greenland's ice cores of tiny tropical marine organisms, specifically certain species of diatoms and silicoflagellates. For anybody that needs a touch up on their geography, Greenland is way up here. The equator, where you find tropical marine specimens, is down here. If there's an impact out here that sent a wave up to Greenland, then what happens to Africa, Spain, England, even the Mediterranean over here? Not only a wall of water, but it would probably trigger fault lines and a lot of seismic activity and leave cities looking like this. Only check this out. This is during the Italian Renaissance, so, 14th, 15th century. Here's a channel I like. I can't pronounce his name, but he goes in depth about the official history of Rome and says, yeah, Alaric invaded in 476, and then Theodoric was a Germanic king that basically just ruled over the Romans and let them keep being a sovereign state, and then goes into a slow decline. But in another video, I'll go into how we get all this information from the Renaissance period with all those secretive guys. And then you get book after book based off of those primary sources. And then by 1776, Edward Gibbons writes the definitive history of Rome, and nobody questions it anymore. But I have a problem with the city being in ruins in 536 AD, still being in ruins at the time of the Renaissance, 1100 years later, and the Western world being in the Dark Ages that whole time, while the Eastern Byzantine Empire flourished. How many famous Romans have you heard of? Now, how many famous Byzantines have you heard of? Probably two. This is new. They picture the Roman Colosseum and mention a 443 shaker that took out a lot of towns in Italy. But the Roman Colosseum fell in a 1349 seismic event. So just imagine one of our football stadiums just sitting empty for 1,000 years and nobody salvaging it. Anyway, let me show you the firsthand accounts and the problems with the dating. That is the actual title of the book. If anybody wants to look it up, it was published in 1749 before they got their historiography together. That's who decides what the official narrative is. According to this book, there's a lot going on around that time. These are all separate accounts from different places, but they're using Scaligerian chronology. Two medieval monks, well, not really, but they really were responsible for all of the dating of historical events. And, even Isaac Newton said that there is no way that these dates are correct. If you guys want to pause and read the bottom 4 lines, it's pretty graphic. But, basically, Antioch had a terrible shake, buildings overturned, appeared a comet for 3 weeks, a famine that they go into graphic detail in here for 536. That is a modern invention. But 540, a great comet, fiery battles with abundance of blood were seen in the air, followed by great inundations, mud flood. A quake traveled over the globe, swallowed Cyzicus, whatever that is. And then in 544, according to this, is when what we'd call Justinian's plague started. Demons in human shape appeared to many. Interesting. And this book goes on and on. And if anybody wants to look it up, we'll just skip forward here to this part where in Greece, many towns were overturned and the sea also broke in and overflowed many places. And when you go through and look at all of these on a map, which I've done in a video, you see that these are all side by side and they've just got the dates spread out. So my official static conclusion is that there was a comet. It caused seismic and volcanic activity, electrical storms, famine, and most likely the plague. Right here in plain English, they say water, mud, the air was corrupted. In Italy, Spain, and France, where it was most favorable, 2/3 of the people perished, and it was most severe at Rome. So even more people in Rome were gone. So just think about that. A big, huge, thriving city, and 80 or 90% of the population is gone in a short period of time. And in medieval and Renaissance times, they came up with a cover story. Why? Because if you're the papacy who had control of everything after that event, and you're trying to convince everybody that you're mankind's direct link to God, then it doesn't look very good when acts of God wipe out the whole population. And so Alaric probably did sack Rome. And then they just used this and blamed everything on it. It's not like they don't still spin every little event that happens. You know how it works now. But where now we have this visual I'm showing as our picture of the Visigoths, well, look at this painting in medieval times where it looks like a bunch of medieval knights for Alaric's army. And there's a lot more stuff like this out there. We'll get into that later in some flamenco. I think I've made a pretty strong case that an impact and earth change events were responsible for the Dark Ages. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, and I'll see you on the next one. Static out.
Well, I know that was a long one. There was a lot of videos, and I appreciate all of them. They're all food for thought. Makes me really want to do deeper dives into different theories that I have myself. And so that's why I passed it on and shared it to all of you. I had a lot of fun today with who showed up in the chat. And for those of you who watch this in the future, thanks for stopping by. And I look forward to doing the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.